Today's topic is competitive estimates and profitable jobs. I am John Mivers, the Vice President and General Manager of Deltek plus ComputerEase. ComputerEase has been part of Deltek now for a little over a year and a day to be exact. Prior to that, I was the President of ComputerEase and ran the ComputerEase organization for a little over 20 years. And prior to that, I worked for a large mechanical contractor and for about 10 years using ComputerEase. And I always like to tell the story. One of my very first jobs was way back in the day. I was doing the hand pricing of the estimates that we're doing by hand. So estimating and how it works with job cost accounting is near and dear to my heart, because that was where I actually got my start, was setting up the ComputerEase system to run the company I worked for, and also had a hand, literally a hand, involved in the estimating process. So excited about today's topic. Real excited to have with me today Chris Lee. And Chris, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Hey, thanks, John. So Chris Lee here. I'm actually the chief estimator over at Esticom. So I head up all of, really our technical side of our product and making sure that it, meets contractors' needs. In that role, I get a chance to work with, literally thousands of specialty contractors and general contractors a year. Get lots of good feedback to then go build that back into the product, make sure it's meeting everyone's needs. And, prior to that, like John, I spent about 10 years in the trades myself as a specialty contractor. I spent time both on the pre-construction side as an estimator, estimating manager, and then spend quite a bit of time on the actual course of construction side as a project manager as well. So, as John mentioned, estimating is obviously near and dear to my heart, but job costing is very near dear to my heart, and being able to combine those two are, very exciting topic for me. And, I'm really excited to just discuss how we're able to integrate these two products and some of the insights you get out of by combining pre-construction and job costing together. All right. So I guess before we jump into this, we can go ahead and give just a quick overview of Esticom for those of you who are not familiar with it. So Esticom is a cloud-based takeoff and estimating application, and it's really purpose-built for specialty and general contractors alike. We work with both of those contractor types. We're headquartered out of Austin, Texas, and we are a newer company. We're founded in 2015, and actually founded by former subcontractors. And like a lot of the folks on the call today, we're kind of struggling to find a good pre-construction solution. Most of the folks here were using some sort of 20-year-old very heavy Excel spreadsheet that had formulas and whatnot in it, and then just using good old-fashioned paper plans to take off projects. And there just really wasn't very good solutions out there that kind of combined all the aspects of estimating and pre-construction. So we decided to go out and build it ourselves. Being in Austin, Texas, it's a pretty tech-heavy town, so we didn't have any trouble finding development talent out there that was pretty excited to go help digitize the construction industry. Being in it's one of the least digitized of all the major industries. So fast forward to today, we have a little over 1,500 customers across the U.S. and Canada. About 4,000 actual estimators using the product as those companies. And that's going to be everybody from SMB, kind of owner-operator companies with 10, 15 employees, all the way up to ENR top 50 contractors that are using the product. All right, so starting out, before we jump into what the product does, I kind of want to talk a little bit about the problem that we address. And so, while many contractors today have adopted a digital strategy for the construction side of the business, whether that's having some sort of like digitized plan management systems, so they're not walking around with paper plans on the job site, or even having something like ComputerEase where you're not manually typing in time cards anymore, or writing on a piece of paper. Pre-construction has really been a little slower to adopt, with 67% of contractors still using paper plans and spreadsheets. And I think the poll we did earlier kind of pointed that out, that, the majority of folks are still using spreadsheets to estimate and kind of manage their bid process. Even so far as, having a whiteboard in the office that everyone puts due dates on and, kind of allocate and, decide who's going to bid a project, in that fashion. So as you can imagine, this creates quite a bit of a bottleneck right at the beginning of the construction process. And not only does it slow down the speed at which you can bid and win projects, this is only amplified once a project is awarded. You begin the process of having to move the data between whatever pre-construction tools or, disparate spreadsheets that you have in place into the tools that you're going to use to manage the course of construction or manage your budgets. You have to go out and create purchase orders, build schedules, allocate equipment and labor resources. And all of this is things that you have to do to be able to stay profitable. And because the data is generally disjointed and kind of siloed between multiple point solutions and spreadsheets, it has to be manually consolidated to be able to move downstream to a tool like ComputerEase. And it's just, creates a lot of manual data entry, potential mistakes right at the onset of construction. And that's really what we're looking to solve here, is to, get the pre-construction side, create tools that are available to make it easier and simpler to bid those projects, to digitize it. And then, really what this webinar is all about, package it up in a way that can then be consumed downstream by the, the job costing accounting software, so you can actually manage it and make sure that project stays profitable. So as far as Esticom goes, we really went out and built an all-in-one estimating system. So that system consolidates kind of the core components of pre-construction into one easy-use, powerful application. And because it's cloud-based, it's available anywhere, anytime, and from any device. So again, we cover bid management, digital takeoff estimating, and even have customizable proposal builders and the ability to create and manage change orders after a project has already been awarded. So again, a couple of just features that really stand out, like I think on the takeoff side, we have the ability to do auto count, which we'll demonstrate a little bit later today. So you can go out and count thousands of symbols in just a matter of seconds. You can do plan overlays. So when you get a new set of drawings for a revision on a project, you're not having to retake the job off again. You can literally just overlay it. It'll show you what's different and what's changed. And then again, we have a customizable proposal builder that allows you to build professional bids branded for your organization that can be emailed right out of the application and then tracked. And then again, lastly, the ability to include bid alternates and also create change orders after a project has gone to contract. Now, the benefits here are going to be huge. Contractors are reducing the time it takes to complete a project by 75% in most cases. This translates to about a 2 to 3x increase in the number of bids an individual estimator can get out the door in the same amount of time compared to estimating with paper plans and spreadsheets. So as you can imagine, this results in higher revenue per estimator, decreased overhead. It just makes your organization more competitive and profitable and improves your estimating team's overall bid throughput. Now, again, once the project is awarded, because we normalize the data and we include cost codes and use, standard accounting cost codes or for job costing, you can export the project right into ComputerEase. So you're not entering data twice. You don't have to go out and pull data from, 10 different spreadsheets. And you can build a project budget broken out by cost codes, cost types, really giving you the data to control costs and then stay in budget. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to John to give you an overview of Deltek ComputerEase.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. Yeah, we'll do a quick overview of Deltek plus ComputerEase, and then we'll jump into the product tour. So, our focus here at Deltek plus ComputerEase is, powering job success through construction-focused software. So 36 years of serving the construction industry. We have over 50,000 users using our solutions. We are experts in the construction industry. That's the only industry we service with the ComputerEase product, so it's very purpose built. A lot of the reasons contractors choose us, and once again, because our solution was built specifically for the construction industry. We have an easy to use, yet very robust accounting job costing solution. The job costing component is going to allow us to keep jobs on track. keep them under budget, compare actual to estimated cost. We'll see an example of that in a minute when we take estimate from Esticom, drop it into ComputerEase, and then manage our job from there. Very powerful yet flexible reporting. Our field solutions, it's very important that we empower the field, enable the field to connect to the office. Everything from entering time to viewing reports, job productivity rates, et cetera. That's all very important to a contractor. A complete project management solution is part of our package as well, so we can manage everything from the whole document flow, process, submittals, RFIs, et cetera, to building out the a Gantt chart schedule and assigning resources. A lot of contractors, and certainly maybe even more today, are kind of getting into service. So as some are focused on service, have always been focused on service. Others are just now getting into service or adding a service component to their construction business. We have a full service solution as well that includes service dispatching, as well as billing and ticketing systems. So once again, the job cost accounting is kind of at the center of everything. But we're doing everything from purchase orders and tracking inventory, writing some contracts, managing all of your general accounting functions, accounts receivable, accounts payable, general ledger, payroll. We have a payroll service solution. A lot of people today, especially in construction, don't want to deal with the compliance issues with payroll, and especially today, and given the all the craziness in the world, the COVID-19 situation, there's a lot of tax changes when it comes to payroll, and we offer a payroll service that can take that burden off of you. So that at a real high level is kind of a little bit about the Deltek plus ComputerEase. What we're going to talk about today is how we can work better together. I mean, when we take an estimating partnered up with the Deltek ComputerEase solution, we're able to build a streamlined process. So we can eliminate a lot of those cumbersome spreadsheets and takeoff tools that are used today. We bring it all together with a solution like Esticom, and then we can seamlessly send the estimates from Esticom into Deltek plus ComputerEase. Now we have the critical job data that we started with, and now we're able to compare our actual cost to the original estimated cost. That's not only great information for managing the current job, but great information to give back to our estimating team so they can fine tune their estimates for future jobs that we're going to bid. So it really allows you to take total control of the of the profits in the future of your construction company. So with that, we want to get in. I know that's a lot of people are dying to see both solutions here, Esticom and the ComputerEase solution. So with that, I'm going to kick it back over to Chris, and Chris, let you run us through a tour of Esticom.
Awesome, John. I appreciate that. That last point you made about kind of sharpening the blade, if you will. You have your estimated costs that go to your job cost. Then you go through the course of construction, you figure out how long it actually took you to do things. We used ComputerEase in a previous business, and that was one of the sharpest tools we had, was being able to take that data and then push it back into our estimating system. And, it really showed us a lot of where in some cases we were overbidding certain things, and other things we're underbidding drastically, and that really opened our eyes to that and helped us improve profitability and be more competitive on our bids. That was really important. Awesome. So if you all can see my screen, first and foremost, I always like to point out that Esticom is a true cloud-based application. So that just means it's web-based. So to log in, you would go to app.esticom.com. You would log into your company account, and when you log in, you're going to land on a dashboard that looks very similar to what you see here. So you can see a list of the projects I'm currently bidding. You can see what member of my team owns the project. So again, this is built to be collaborative. So I can have multiple estimators, managers, sales folks that are putting projects into this, kind of bid dashboard, if you will. And you can see those dollar values, price per square feet, due date, all that stuff increasing and decreasing as you go through the estimating process. Now, once you complete an estimate on a project and submit a bid, you literally just drag this over to bid submitted, and you basically have these buckets here. This is kind of a estimating pipeline. line that shows the total number of projects you have, the dollar values, and helps you kind of manage your bid pipeline, as an estimator or as an estimating team. Now, if we jump into a project, we're going to get into this commercial electrical project here. When you first click on the project, you're going to land on a project details page. Now, this is where you put in, basic information like who whether you're working for an owner or a general contractor, who the contact is, the project location, and then the project owner on your team. So again, you can have a full team of estimators. You can pass the project along to different members as you go through the project or through the estimating process. Here you can put in notes and tasks, and you can attach site survey pictures, specifications, quotes, anything that needs to be in one central place. Now, moving left to right, we have plans. This is where you upload a set of plans. I'm not going to spend too much time here, but basically you can upload any PDF or image file formats. It's going to break those plans out. It'll automatically rename them to match the sheet name, and then you can, of course, organize these into different folders and kind of divisions and whatnot. Now, when we click on takeoff, this is really where a lot of the fun starts to happen. So, when I pull this up, I can see the project, the first drawing in that list of drawings. I have a little navigation pane here, and I can literally go through and jump back and forth between different parts of the project. And then you can also over to the right, you can go in and set your plan scale so you can start taking measurements and whatnot. We've already set the plan scale on this one. Now, on this particular job, we have a lighting division, power, overhead, and some switchgear and panels that we want to go take off. Now, I just want to point out, I've already added these items to this particular project, but we have a full database for all MEP and even most of the majority of specialty contractors out there. We have a database backed by national average pricing with multi-layered parts and assemblies. So you can literally just go in and start typing and searching for a particular item that you're looking for, and pull that up to add it and then go count and measure that particular item. Now, I've already got that on the dashboard here. So the way you could go through and count these items, I could obviously, I need to count these 2x4 light fixtures here. I can either click here and go through and manually count those. That obviously is not going to be a great use of your time. We have an auto count technology that uses OCR to go look at the plan and find specific symbols on the plan, and basically counts the symbol for you. So I can do that across a single sheet or multiple sheets. So when I click this, it's going to go through and search this entire plan for those 2x4 light fixtures, and it'll basically present the results to you. And this is one of the things we do different from the other folks out there, is that instead of just going and highlighting all the symbols on the drawing, we actually present them to you, and you can kind of browse through and select the ones you want. You can unselect the ones you don't want. And then you click save and close, and it went through and counted all those symbols for you. So as you can imagine, this is a big time saver for folks. Now, in addition to this, like in this example, we need to run some overhead branch, which is conduit and wire. So I'm going to do a linear measurement. Now, what's great about these linear measurements and these multi-layered assemblies is I'm actually taking just one measurement here, but as I drag and measure across the screen, it's actually including the quantities for the actual conduit, the couplings, the connectors, the 3 wires that go inside. So as I go through and perform this takeoff, it's adding up and basically building my estimate for me behind the scenes, which you'll see here in a minute, versus having to go out and manually break these down and add these individual parts. So as you can see, you can go through and take off a lot of items in a very quick amount of time. You do linear measurements, area measurements. We have multi-layered assemblies, and then all this data here will then flow over to the estimating step. So you get to the estimating step. Here you can see a list of the different items that we just added. So here we can see 41 of those 2x4 LED fixtures. If I expand this, you can see that this is an assembly. Within this an assembly, you have 615 feet, or basically 15 feet of 12-2 copper wire for every one of those light fixtures. And we have basically MC connectors every 5 feet incremented into that assembly. So all I did was do the measurement, and it calculates all this out. Now, what's great about this is to the right of that, you can see the cost. You can obviously export this and go get a quote from your suppliers, import it right back in. It'll update all these prices, or you can manually just change it, right? I can click here and say, well, this is $125. You can adjust your waste. You can add markup at the material level, or you can do it at the project as a whole. And then over to the right, you have your actual labor. So this is the labor to install that particular item. This is the labor combined to install the entire light fixture assembly. To the right of that, I have the ability to add labor difficulty if it's a more difficult job. And so long story short, you're able to go through, build out your quote, add your margins and markup, put in your labor, composite labor cost to come up with your labor cost for the job. It gives you your total hours. You then add in your profit margins, put in your inclusions, exclusions, and down here at the bottom, you click show bid, and we have a customer-facing quote, obviously with your logo, your contact details, and you can have the project broken out by groups or phases, or you can say lump sum only where it just shows inclusions, exclusions, or you can do a very detailed breakout where you show the individual items and their unit cost for each. Now from here, you can take this and you can export the bid to PDF or a Word document, or you can also send it via email directly to the end user, and then we'll track whether they received it and opened it and whatnot. Now from here, I always like to point out that, why this is kind of the original estimate, you can come in and build bid alternates. So I can duplicate this estimate, and I have a running trail of multiple estimates that I've provided and multiple quotes I've provided to the customer. And then obviously whichever one they go with, you end up selecting it as the primary. And then I can also create change orders and track change orders in here. Now from here, and this is going to tie back into, ComputerEase, and we're about to hand it over in a second. To get this budget, once this project is awarded, to get it over to ComputerEase with all of the the labor hours, the actual job costs broken out by cost codes, all you do is click here and say export estimate to ComputerEase. This is going to create a pre-formatted Excel spreadsheet that imports directly into ComputerEase and to set that project up. And so with that, John, I'm going to go ahead and hand it back over to you.
We're going to come in here to ComputerEase, and just a couple, quick notes for people that aren't familiar with ComputerEase. Everything you're seeing on the screen here is all controlled by the user, so you can grant permissions based on, based on the level of access you want to give a certain user. We offer both a cloud-hosted option as well as an on-premise solution, so we can serve your needs either way. But there's a lot of things, and we're going to focus obviously mostly on the the kind of the core things around the estimate. We're going to bring in the estimate. We're going to write a purchase order. We're going to see some material costs. We're going to see time come in from the field. We're going to see the actual labor hours going against the labor budget. So I'm going to start with creating a new job. So we've got that estimate that we just got from Esticom. I'm going to create a new job. I'm going to come in and I'm going to go ahead and choose who the customer is for this job. So I'm going to pick my customer, give the job a name. I'm going to come over here and very simple I'm going to import the budget from Esticom. So I've got, we have a Esticom format already set up. I've got the file that came out of Esticom, click of a button, and there's my $83,000 job with the almost $65,000 budget broken down into the three cost categories that we had in our takeoff in Esticom, and then within each of those is the breakdown of the cost, the labor, material, subcontract, et cetera. So a couple clicks of the mouse and you brought that estimate in from Esticom. So no more keying in the information, to dealing with any of that. Very simple, easy transition from Esticom into ComputerEase. So now that we have the job set up, one of the things that we're going to do is I want to take a look at kind of the job at a high level. The job dashboard, one of the certainly one of the important things in ComputerEase, what we call our job center. And it gives me one place to go to see everything about a particular job. So I can see the job, the contract, estimated cost, estimated profit. What was our estimated profit margin? Here's that job breakdown that we had that came over from Esticom. So I see the list. I got my schedule of values built when I get ready to go do billing. I've got my budget, and then within each item, I've got how much of the budget was labor, material, et cetera. So we've got that. So very easy to see that, and this dashboard gives you a chance to see it at a very high level. Now we'll come back in a few minutes after we process some transactions and get cost to the job, and we'll see how easily I can go ahead and compare that actual to my original estimate. So we need to buy some material. We have a material budget in those line items. So within ComputerEase, we can come in here and write a purchase order. So I'm going to enter a new PO. Who's the vendor? Who am I buying material from? Choose my vendor, what job or jobs. You can certainly write purchase orders for more than one job. Not only what job, but what cost code. So it's for our electrical job, and maybe I'm buying material for the electrical distribution here. And now I'm going to come over and I'm going to add the items to the purchase order. I'm going to talk about a couple of different purchase orders, because in today's example, we're talking about electrical, but this could certainly be, could be an HVAC contractor, a plumbing contractor, mechanical, et cetera. We have what we call individual line item purchase orders, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute. And then I'm going to talk about a lump sum or a lot purchase order, which is very popular in, say, in electrical or mechanical. So electrical, I'm going to buy my fixture package. Well, I don't have individual prices for the fixtures, but I have a quoted price for the entire lot, or switchgear package, or on the mechanical side or a plumbing contractor, I'm going to buy my plumbing fixtures. So that would be an example where we would use a lot or lump sum purchase order, and I'll show that in a minute. But on this particular one, we're going to buy individual line items. We're buying, material, we're buying conduit and wire, fittings, et cetera. Now I can have a pre-built list to choose from. So I can have a library of items to choose from if I have common items that I'm going to purchase, or I can type in, the item quantity and description if I don't want to put a pre-built list of items in there. So I got a purchase order. In this case, $675. We'll make it simple. Just put 2 items on there. I can go ahead and email this directly over to my vendor. So all the forms are Word templates. You get to put your own, custom template in there, language, et cetera. But as simple as emailing a purchase order, which turns it into a PDF, attaches it to my outgoing email, and there's an email going to the vendor with the purchase order that I just wrote for that job. And as soon as that purchase order is written, so there's the PO for that $675, and that will now show as a committed cost, which we'll see here in just a minute. So I do want to real quick show that other example, because I think this is a huge benefit if you're doing those lump sum or lot purchases. And once again, I'll go back to my days, and I worked for a mechanical contractor. So, we bought plumbing fixture packages, et cetera. And, we were able to write purchase orders, and it might be a $50,000 purchase order, and it's going to come in many, many invoices. And I don't have individual prices. I know they're going to give me all of these fixtures for $50,000, and I want to be able to write that as a purchase order. So what we do in that scenario, and we'll just write one here for the electrical, for the lighting fixtures, is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do what we call a lump sum or a lot purchase order. In this case, I got my fixture package, and maybe the entire fixture package is, let's say, $20,000 in this example. And so I'm going to buy the fixture package. Now I can list the individual fixtures. I know the total is $20,000, and maybe it's 10 type A and 20 type B, et cetera. I don't have individual prices because it's all part of my lump sum. But this is like I said, a big feature that a lot of our, contractors, especially in the MEP world, that are buying packages, want to be able to track. So I've got 10 type A, 15 type B, all as part of that lump sum $20,000. Same thing, I could go ahead and email that over to the vendor. But now let's take a quick look at our job dashboard. And as soon as we write those purchase orders, sorry, selected the wrong job there. As soon as we write those purchase orders, you can see that we have a commitment for $20,675 because I have 2 open purchase orders, and there's the 2 POs that I wrote, a couple minutes ago. So as soon as those purchase orders are written, we're going to see that as committed cost on the job, and I think that's very important to be able to see that on the job, so that we know that we've committed to that. We know that we've written purchase orders and we have that cost coming. Now, when an invoice comes in, I'm going to apply that invoice directly to that purchase order. So I get an invoice, and we'll do the one for the individual items first, and I can come in here and maybe we received them all. So I've got all 100, 150. That's great. I can attach a copy of the vendor's invoice, drag and drop if I have it electronically, scan it in, and we've got the invoice in, verifying the amount. This vendor gives me discount terms. So I get 2% if I pay by the 10th of the next month. I want to try to take that. So I want to track that. And we've got that entered. Now, maybe I get the first invoice for the fixture package. So I got the first invoice for the fixture package. In this case, I'm going to track what they shipped me. They shipped me 10 of those, maybe none of the type B yet, and they've invoiced me $7,500. So when I come in next month, it's going to know that there's 12,500 left to finish. So I'm going through. We'll do this one in a couple steps here. So I got an invoice for 7,500, and a little bit later on, I get another invoice, and maybe it's for another 7,500. And in this case, they shipped me 10 of the 15 of that one. So I'm tracking this all against the PO. And once again, I can scan and attach documents. But all of this, if we go back now, we've entered a couple invoices, and we go back over to the job, and we can see that we now have an outstanding commitment for 5,000, but we have 3 open invoices for the 15,675, and I can see how does that compare against my budget. So when I look at that, I can see where I'm at against the budget. I can drill down further and say, okay, total budget I'm within line, but guess what? I've now exceeded my material budget. And you notice we also got a warning when we entered that. It says, okay, wait a minute, that 15,000 takes you over your original material budget. So you have some real nice warnings built in there to be able to track that. And from the dashboard, I can get show me where I'm over budget. It'll show me, okay, on material, you're over budget on this particular cost code. So you've got some real good warnings built in. I purposely put one in there so we could see how easy it is to determine when you're over that budget. So we have some material cost in there. Now let's take a look at how we get labor. As we all know, one of the most important things, and certainly depending on how labor intensive the work you do is managing the labor. We can control the material costs with, proper quoting and negotiating and things up front and locking those prices in. But the real variable throughout the duration of the job is the labor. And that's what we really want to be able to track and manage. So we're now going to take a look at a couple ways, and let's start by how do we get time in from the field? That's something I get asked all the time. Is John, how can I got to get the time in real time? I want to be able to see time on a daily basis. So I'm going to log into our field component, what we call ComputerEase, and I'm going to go ahead and enter the time for today for either individual members of my crew. I can enter the crew as a whole. We'll do the entire crew. I'm going to do John's crew here. We're working on our electric job. What were we doing? We're working on the electrical distribution here. My crew had 8 hours, and now it expands and says, okay, John, your crew is made up of these 3 individuals. I'm going to go ahead and send that time back to the office. So I'm doing that each day, out in the field. Each one of my foremen or site supers is entering the time from the field. Now, when we come back in on the office side, I don't have to rekey any of that time. I'm just going to import it. So, my field personnel are sending their time to me through their smartphone, iPad, tablet, etc. I'm going to go ahead and import the time. So there's the 24 hours that we just brought in. If I need to make modifications or corrections, I certainly can. But I'm going to go ahead and save that. So I've got 24 hours entered. Now, we're not going to do payroll till next week. This time is coming in real time each day. Let's go back, and you talk about real-time job costing. Let's go back and look at our job now. So I know that I have used 16 of the 445 hours on that job. And I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to look at that. And I can see that unposted payroll is reflected real time on my job. So as those hours come in each day, we're able to see that real time on our job. Even though payroll's not going to be run until next week, each day as I add time, we're going to be able to see that. And if I can go back out, go back out in the field, and I fast forward, and we go to Friday and we do the same thing. I'm going to enter my time, but each day, if we get the time in from the field, we're going to see that real time job cost report being updated. And now, once again, I've got those hours, and I'm going to go ahead and send those back to the office. So each day we're bringing in time, importing it into the system, and seeing our job cost updated on a real-time basis. And that's one of the real advantages to the field solution is we can bring this time in every day, and we're able to see that reflected on the job each day. And now, as and each day as those transactions are happening, we're getting a real-time picture of what job cost looks like. So, and we can see, we're tracking a number of things. We know what we spent today. We know we're committed. We're tracking over under billing. We're tracking cash flow. We're tracking all the things that that go out. So, we haven't paid our vendors yet, but we do have payroll committed. So we know that cash is going out the door soon, or that's very close to going out the door or has already gone out the door. So we're tracking all that. We get our work in progress statement. So when I run that WIP statement, we do the over under billing calculation. And as we all know, the work in progress schedule is the key to a contractor's financial statements. We can't produce an accurate financial without it, and we're able to see that. But most importantly, we're able to come back. Let's talk about where we started. We had our budget, came over from Esticom, and real time we're starting to track and manage that against that job. And we're looking at just the one job we started with here today. But if I were to go take a look at all the jobs and across the system, and whether it's I want to run my my work in progress report, I want to track the cash flow, I want to track my cost to date. But ultimately, what we're doing is being able to track actual versus estimated cost on every item, no matter how detailed that is. So we did an example with 3 cost items. It just as easily could have been 300 cost items. So however detailed you get with your estimate, we're now able to report back and track cost at that level. So I think this is a great tool, and then be able to feed information back to estimating on how do we do on a job. Are we maybe we're always over budget or under budget on a particular task. Well, as an estimator, and I think, Chris, you would agree, as an estimator, I want to know that. I want to know, wait, my labor factor is too high on this activity and it's too low on another activity. Because who knows where that difference is going to make or break me when it comes to the next job.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there, John. And I don't want to stop you, but there was 2 or 3 things that really stood out there. We can maybe touch on them just for a brief second, because I talk to contractors every day, and these things come up quite often. One is, cash flow is king, right? Like if you have so much money going out, being able to see that holistic view, kind of 50,000 foot view of how much money do we have going out the door versus what's going in. And on one of those reports you showed there, you kind of could show the cash out versus the cash in across all your projects, and it gives you a good idea of like, hey, do we have enough on our credit line? Are we able to cover this? And that's one of the things that, I feel like, especially on the S&B side, folks they have a hard time pinning down how much money is going out versus what's coming in, and making sure those AIA forms and things like that are accurate and correct, and that you're billing progressively, keeping up with the amount of money that's going out. The other thing that I saw in there that was really nice is, and this is from unfortunately previous experience was with not as good of an accounting application, but 2 things in particular. One, you guys are able to do purchase orders that are partials. And you would be surprised how many applications don't give you the ability to do that. You create a PO, but it's kind of an all or nothing type deal. And that those guys aren't from the construction industry if they're doing that, because you're going to pick up materials over a 2-month period, a little bit at a time, and small portions. And it doesn't make sense for your PO to just be kind of an all or nothing type deal. And then lastly, it was the crew versus individual users logging your job time. And so we had looked at a couple of project management tools, and that was one of the big issues for us, is they only gave you the option to do crew time, which was great for some types of contractors. But for us, we needed the ability for individual users, because they were bouncing around to different jobs, to be able to log time, and they just weren't able to do that. So those were 2 things that, as putting my contracting hat on for a minute, those are things that stood out to me as really powerful features there.
Yeah, no, that's great feedback, Chris. Yeah, and that's and one of the things that I think Chris mentioned about Esticom, built by contractors, ComputerEase built by contractors. Chris and I both being former contractors. I mean, that's the real value. So when we sit down and talk about how we're going to work together, how we're going to build our own individual solutions, we come from the industry. That's where we've been. That's what we did for a living. We still do it for a living now, only we're helping people on that side. But it's really important that we understand the power of cash flow. I mean, when you look at this, when I go from job to job, I want to manage the overall cash flow, but I want to see which jobs are drain on the cash flow. And it's probably because we're underbilled. And that so you look, whether you're looking at it in a dashboard type view, or if I go back to that that WIP schedule that had the cash flow in it. I mean, I can just, at a quick glance, I can see which jobs are draining the cash flow and why, and if there's a huge underbilling, it's probably likely that it is a drain on the cash flow. So those are all. I mean, cash is king in construction, and it's very hard. I got to manage my line of credit, know when I need to, know when I'm going to need it. I need to be able to do the best I can to to minimize the need for cash. And it's because one thing you think about in construction, we all know, we start a job, we start putting people out on the job site, and we're going to be working 30 days or so before we can even submit the first pay request, and then it's probably another 45 days or so before we get paid. Well, guess what? I've been making payroll every week along that line. I start a job today, I may not see dime one for probably 75 to 90 days, and I got to make payroll all along the way. So very, very important. And hopefully you get to a point. So at the beginning of a job, it's almost always negative cash flow, but you want to get it to that positive cash flow position as soon as you can.
Absolutely.
One other thing I want to touch on. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Oh, I was just going to agree with you. As a contractor, we pretty much expected to not be able to bill for at least we weren't going to see money for 90 days in most cases, and in some instances we would try to preload some of the things as we were taking material out there. And as you had mentioned, payroll is every week, but material vendors want their money 30 days after you pick it up. So, that being said, being able to manage your cash flow and see the overall company picture, you can, on some cases, you can decide not to pick up materials and go drop it off at the job site if they're not going to let you bill for it until the 15th or the 20th and it's only the the first of the month. So it gives you the ability to make those kind of informed decisions.
Yeah, there's a lot of a lot of things, strategic things you do, and a lot of times the vendors offer a nice discount for prompt payment, and a lot of times you want to take advantage of that. And we would strategically look and try to time the material, figure out and in a lot of cases we are going to pay before we get paid on the material because I want to take the discount, and the money I'm borrowing is costing me less than the discount they're giving me, and there's all kinds of things that go into that cash flow. But the best position to be in is I have the cash to do that. If I can get those jobs to a positive cash flow position, front load the billing as Chris mentioned, and so once I do start billing, I'm getting I'm starting to work. I want to be in that overbilled situation as long as I'm managing it properly, and that's the key to the to the WIP report. I mean, overbilling is a great thing as long as you manage it. I mean, the contractor's nightmare is I don't realize this $288,000 doesn't belong to me, and I go out and spend that and don't realize that I have to do that work later on down the road. Getting the positive cash flow is great as long as we properly manage that, and that's what a system like ComputerEase allows me to do. When I manage manage my WIP schedule, I make the proper adjustments to the P&L and move the overbilling to the balance sheet, move the underbilling to the balance sheet where it belongs. So those are all key things for us as contractors. One other thing I want to touch on real quick is, I mentioned at the beginning, and I want to save a few minutes for Q&A, is the service component. So I know, a lot of contractors are starting to do more service. Some have always done a lot of service, but we have a very robust service dispatching component. So I'll just very briefly touch on this. So I have a service dispatch system. I can come in here. I take a call and description of the problem. And I'm going to go ahead and assign that, prioritize it. This is an ASAP call. I got to get somebody out there right away, and they go ahead and put it on the board. And I'm just going to drag it over, assign it to my service tech. And it's just simple with a click of a button. I've now kicked it out to the field. And if we go back to our field solution where we were doing time, the field solution also has the ability. So if I am a service tech out in the field, there's that one new work order, and I can go through that process. I won't go through the whole process of completing that, but long story short, I can go into the work ticket. I got all the information now readily available. I've got reports that show me previous work history we've done there. I'm going to enter, my material and labor used to solve the ticket, description of what we did, get the customer to sign off on it, send it back for billing. So very robust service solution that, we'd certainly be happy to talk to anybody about as well.
On behalf of Next Systems, we would like to thank you for watching this video. To learn more, contact us at 800-969-6398.